It was in 1492 that Columbus first landed with his crew, making history as the first person who discovered North America.
The bell rings.
Lies.
It was before 1492 that the Taino people had discovered America. Yet, over 3 million people had perished from the abuse brought by Columbus. More than 75% of their population had been extinct. All of their history had been washed away by the waves of white privilege.
He proudly stood over the crippled corpses of the blameless natives.
We stand here over the bones of slaves, the bones of people, the bones of society, the bones of the history we were never taught. The bones of the history we were never taught.
They tell us about Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, Nelson Mandela, but did they ever teach you about Lamar Smith?
August 13, 1955, a black civil rights activist shot dead at point-blank range for innocently standing on the courthouse lawn. Dozens of people watched in awe, but none of them stood up and called the police because in those days, it was easier to watch a black man get shot by a white man than to end up in a fistfight against racism.
They tell us that Martin Luther King Jr. had a dream, but those dreams can't be achieved because our brains have been chained. Our minds have been slaves to think rather than do, to read than to pursue. They make us read 300-page textbooks about the white men being powerful once again because they think we can't handle the real truth.
The real truth that describes who we are. The real truth that describes who they were. The real truth that we deserve to know. The truth that does not revolve around the color of our skin. 1924, standardized testing invented by Frederick J. Kelly. These tests are too crude to be used and should be abandoned. Kids competing to get a letter that should be defining their future, scrunching their minds, trying to decide whether the answer is A, B, or C. What to think, not how to think. Letting your happiness be determined by the percentage engraved in red ink on the paper that you were supposed to study for.
1943, World War II. Sophie Skoll, her name buried under the ashes while the loud riots above her slowly disintegrate her name into thin air until her voice is no longer heard. One of the very few anti-Nazi German activists executed alongside of Hitler and her friend for putting up a fight against Hitler and the rest of Nazi Germany. Yet her name seemed irrelevant to the pages of our textbook.
1881. Thomas Edison, the name we've all heard of, inventor of the light bulb. Yet he shadows one of the greatest African-American inventors who ever lived, Lewis Latimer. But in those days, it was easier to hear about another white man who had enough money to build things with his own hands than about a black man to light up the world from the ground up. A textbook. How can all of history be summed up into 300 pages? Look through the pages, not at them. Read between the lines. Know what they tell you to think. Get your facts straight. Dig a little deeper. Dig until the hole is big enough to fit the lies you were told was the truth. Dig until your ancestors tie you up into their history. The ropes hold you captive until you question. You question. What did history class ever really teach you?